I think it's such a small shift of just deciding I'm not going to put myself down, whether it's to myself or to my friends. I'm just not going to use that language. It's a small shift, and it's actually a lot, I think, harder to make than it might sound. But I think just by doing that, you'll start to kind of allow yourself to actually enjoy what you're doing more and to chase that donut.
Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat of Take the Doughnut, here to help you get inspiration and get donuts. I'm a motivational keynote speaker, and today I'm bringing you a Take the Doughnut interview with Gabriel Schillinger-Hyman, who is a New York City-based jazz pianist. Welcome.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me, Melissa.
So glad to have you on. And I should also say, this isn't like an official part of your bio, but we're both fellow Brown University graduates, and that's how I've just met you. So I'm so excited to speak with you today. And before we get into any more serious questions, I have to ask, what's your favorite donut?
My favorite donut, the brief headline is Team Mongolia, like a violin team from Mongolia representing the country reached out to me and had me perform at Carnegie Hall as their accompanist. And that was the first time I'd played classical piano in many, many years. So that was like nerve-wracking and totally out of the blue, cold call.
Okay. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. So you're referring to it as your favorite opportunity, is what I'm thinking there.
Yeah, and also a chance for me to really like, you know, it was something I wasn't comfortable with essentially that I really had to like gear up to and say, yeah, I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna spend the time and do something that I'm really not comfortable with and go for it.
I love it. Well, okay, so let me reset this for folks. So when I say take the donut, for me, it's another way to say carpe diem, and it's an expression that means the same thing, and it's all about going after the things that you want in life. And for me, it comes from this strange thing that happened when I was at Brown, where I left an actual donut on a table, and it became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to leave opportunities behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. So this conversation is all about going after the things that you want in life. And we started straight away with a really big one. And we might get into that a little bit more later, depending on how you want to answer the questions, actually. But let's back up a little bit and tell me a little bit more about yourself, because I just gave a little intro to you at the start. But tell us more about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in California, San Francisco. Um, Both my parents are from New York. My mom's from New York City. My dad's from Buffalo, New York, which is currently living in New York City. So I've always kind of had this bi-coastal relationship going on between California and New York City. And I think I've been playing piano since I was age 4, and it's always been such an important part of my life. And a lot of my family members are classical musicians. So it was definitely something that I grew up with, just playing the piano, loving it, hating it, all of the above. And a lot of my friends were decided to kind of go to a conservatory for their college, a music conservatory. I had done like a conservatory prep division. I was kind of gearing up toward that. And whereas a lot of my friends and including my twin brother, I have an identical twin, decided to go to conservatory, I kind of decided to apply to just other liberal arts schools because I just knew that deep inside that, yes, while I was a pianist, I just had so many other interests and I really wanted to strengthen my brain and fulfill some intellectual curiosities. And that's why I ended up at Brown. And um, I was still, taking jazz piano lessons and participating in the Providence music scene, but I was a Hispanic studies literature major. And my very, very niche um, focus was 19th century Hispanic Gothic literature and film. So that was my world for about 4 years of just like music on the side and just total immersion in literature and film from Latin America. Um, and then after Brown University, I decided it was time to kind of um, do the thing that I always knew I wanted to do, which was take the piano side kind of more seriously. And I went to the Manhattan School of Music for my master's in jazz piano. And I think my whole life I had kind of felt like I had one foot in, one foot out of the music scene, but also one foot in, one foot out of, you know, my other kind of more academic interests. So I kind of feel like the last whatever 15 years have just been kind of me straddling two worlds. And more recently, have I kind of figured out how to participate in both, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's so it's so interesting. And I love that you had this pursuit, sometimes loved, sometimes not so loved for you from when you were young. Um, but knew that you wanted to have like a more balanced side to you, that you wanted to have your education be broader than just playing piano. So I think it's so interesting that the approach that you took. And I mean, I'm sure I took classes very similar to yours actually when I was at Brown as well, because I took a lot of literature classes. Um, so, okay, such an interesting background that you have here. So, on the subject of going after goals and going after opportunities, let's talk about this. How are you with going after goals in general? What's that process like for you?
Um, so I guess I'll back up here a little bit. I probably starting in middle school had learning specialists tell me that I have what was then called LDNOS, which means learning difference not otherwise specified. And the conversation surrounding learning differences has changed a lot just in just a few years. But at a very young age, I knew I had LDNOS, which was a combination of things that essentially resulted in um, lack of organization. My focus was always really, really good. It's just I had so many thoughts, and it was difficult for me to give direction to them and therefore plan. So basically, since middle school, I was lucky enough to have people at my schools that were, and my parents that were kind of aware of these things and were able to give me the tools to to be organized. So for me, going after my goals right now really means having a very consistent process that I've set up for myself that literally includes a lot of spreadsheets and visiting those spreadsheets daily, if not every other day, and making sure that I'm actually working toward this goal or these two or three goals that I've set out for myself. So if the goal is like, hey, I really want to do a West Coast tour, about 6 to 7 months before I set an arbitrary date, whatever, 7 months before, I literally create a master spreadsheet. And I kind of treat myself and that plan like a small business that I have to nurture and I have to visit every day because otherwise it'll just be an idea that kind of disappears in the abyss, as has happened so many times before.
It's kind of interesting because when you get this diagnosis, I don't know if that feels like a good thing to you, but on the other hand, it gives you this very specific set of tools to put in your tool belt that a lot of people in their adulthood have never gone through a process of evaluating how they best function. And so they don't even know what they need. So you came into adulthood with like this fully formed set of tools to help you figure out how you were going to get things done. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I remember the first time like I was told that I needed extra time on tests or essay writing. It was like a nightmare and people were making fun of me. They didn't get it. But I think just in the span of 15 years, the conversations surrounding just the way people's brain works in the workplace or in school has gotten so much more sophisticated and obviously needs more work. But I think I was really lucky to have that guidance and to be given those tools. Because everyone, even if you don't have a diagnosis or, mine was LDNOS, learning difference not otherwise specified. So it's pretty vague. Like, these tools should be kind of given to everyone, I think, at a young age. Like, how do you process information, verbal, written, you know? So yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's really helped me.
so good. so smart and so useful, I guess I could say, really. So when you've got a really big goal, a really big task, maybe like that you're going to do a West Coast tour plan, what keeps you motivated when you know there's going to be a lot of time, a lot of steps along the way, and a lot you have to do?
Yeah, so I think the underlying um the underlying thing, there has to be a passion for what you're doing. Whether it's writing a grant or putting a tour together, like you gotta want to do it, or else or else it's just gonna be really hard. You might still be able to do it, but it'll be hard. And for me, I know that I really do want to be performing music at a high level. So um, having said that, I don't think motivation and passion are enough to sustain, you know, a 7 month goal or even I don't think even a 10 or 20 year goal. Personally, I think I yeah, I'm passionate, I'm motivated. I operate many times out of fear, like, oh, I'm afraid that if I don't do this, then it won't happen. But I think the key is probably consistency. And I'm trying to get better at just being consistent. So just like you got to brush your teeth a couple times a day, like I just have to check my spreadsheet now. That's a rule for myself. I got to do this once a day, or I have to practice piano once a day, even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's 15 minutes, it like has to be done. And I don't have to like it, but I think consistency is really important. And then the other things like passion and just general love for what I'm doing, and the fact that I have an identical twin brother who looks exactly like me, who's pursuing his master's at Juilliard School of Music, just next door. It's like those things are pushing me too. And having a twin brother and being competitive since age 0 definitely fuels my it keeps me busy, I would say.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool answer. Many pronged answer there. So I imagine that, like for you, for most people, really, when you have a really big task ahead of you, a lot of times challenges come up, obstacles come in our way. You might have been starting to address this a little bit in your motivation answer, but for you, is there a particular brand of challenge that just keeps coming up for you over and over again, no matter what it is you're doing?
Yeah, I would say there are two very big ones that appear in the world of any jazz musician, I think, but mine included. I think like I mentioned earlier, like if you're a freelance anything, musician, whatever, you are a small business and you have to treat yourself like one. So juggling the creative output and just the time that you invest in creating and juggling that with the very real like administrative tasks um, that you need to do in order to sustain that small business and continue making sure that you have the opportunities to create, that can get pretty difficult, I think. Um, and that's something I'm working on. I think the first thing that um, that suffers in that relationship for me is the creative output. I'll spend less time on the creative stuff, more time on making sure I'm booked, making sure I got the tour ready. And then once those deadlines approach, then I'll kind of scramble and pull a project together that I'm really happy about. So I think that's the first challenge, is juggling the creative with the administrative. And then the second, which is probably the greatest challenge, I think, for many jazz musicians on the scene, is just like you are a small fish in an ocean of just the best talent in the world. So um, showing up, just like showing up to a jam session or to a club or performing in front of others, um, is definitely a hurdle. And I think everyone I talk to has anxiety about their own playing and about where they stand and on that, invisible social ladder. Um, I make constant comparisons about myself, and people, talk, they're always comparing other people. So being able to um, essentially I have to have inner conversations with myself all the time and like really hype myself up when it's time to perform in front of people I respect or with people I respect too.
Mm. And even though you're in a really particular world, I think that's a very relatable thing
Yeah.
for a lot of people. So for you, you might have said this right at the top, but what's the biggest donut you've ever taken?
Yeah, I think there are two donuts that I think I want to get into here. But the most like just random donut that I think was kind of fun and funny was I got a call from a team of Mongolian violinists, and they needed but maybe it's because my rates were cheap at the time, I don't know, but they needed a classical pianist to accompany about five of their students who were flying of different ages, who were flying out from who were being flown out by Carnegie Hall to perform in this international competition. And I had played a piece of classical music since I was 18, and I'm 26 now, so this was last year. Um, so it was my first response was to say no. Like I know so many incredible classical pianists in New York. Um, and my first reaction was to pass it on to someone else and say thanks. But um, I only had about a week and a half to prepare five pieces of music that for a classical pianist wouldn't be too hard. But I just hadn't been in that world for so long. So um, I forced myself to say yes. It was a painful text. I like didn't I had like three backup plans, like who am I gonna call if I can't get this stuff together, blah blah blah. And I just kind of worked for it, and I took a piano lesson from one of these classical pianists who's also my age, um, who was a good friend of my brother's from Oberlin College, and uh, decided to go for it. And I had my girlfriend who doesn't even read any music. She was my page turner, so we were kind of in it together. So yeah, that was one of the big ones I think for me.
Oh, that's amazing. Was there another one as well that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, another one was there was the artistic director at a cultural center in New York. I had been in conversation with him for a while about, putting on a performance for that community, and he said, "Hey, it'd be really interesting if you could, um, you know, present on, but you put a performance on about jazz as it relates to New York City and place and time." And I was like, "Sure, let's go." And right then and there, I said, "I'll do an 8-week series each week." I'll put a different performance on, and we'll talk about uh, you know, the history of jazz in New York, essentially as it relates to architecture and space and um, specific hotels, apartment buildings, lofts, bridges. And I ended up saying yes to a totally bizarre and random project and had to turn it around and deliver really quickly. So I ended up calling it the topography of jazz, the shape of jazz to come, or something like that, in New York City. And it ended up being a 5-week series, and each week, starting from the 1600s to about 1965, each week I was presenting just different pieces of music as it related to very niche um, uh, kind of history of New York that you wouldn't be able to find on Wikipedia, essentially.
So interesting. I love both of these. But I also love, with the first big donut that you mentioned, Team Mongolia. I just think it's just this classic case of it. There's always reasons to say no to a thing. We always have reasons, and so just like hearing this story from you and how you pushed through it, I think is really encouraging to me of there's always a reason to say no, but what if you said yes? Sort of a feeling to it. And to that end, is there a donut that you're taking right now? Is there anything that's currently in progress?
Um, yeah, I think the big one on the horizon is I'm trying to put my debut album together, and it's um, the kind of thing where I don't know how much of this is true or how much of it I'm kind of imposing on myself, but I think a lot of jazz musicians experience this feeling that their first album is how the world will perceive them. And obviously you want it to be something you're proud of, but um, there's a lot of anxiety and weirdness around putting out my first big project for everyone to hear, and not only putting it out, but also like um, with that comes like, there has to be a whole marketing push. Like I have to really invest in that project. So it is how people will see you for a while. And so that's a big one that um, is coming together slowly. Yeah.
Wow. So, and we're getting you right as this project is happening for you. So good luck in that journey. But for people who have a donut that they want to take, maybe it's still an idea for them, or maybe they've started and they're looking for motivation to keep going. What would you say to those people? Let's sprinkle some encouragement. And what would you say to those people who have that situation?
I think, and I hope this will apply to many, many, many fields. I think your words have a lot of power, including the words that you tell yourself. And I think it feels easy and safe to say you're not good at something or tell yourself you can't do it, and to tell your friends, I don't think I can do this, and to kind of seek comfort in what their response will be. Oh, yeah, like, don't worry about it. It's okay. Like, you don't have to do it, right? Because um, there is a safety and a comfort in that kind of pleasant discouragement, I think. So really, I think actively using words that kind of manifest your dreams or your goals is really important. And I think it's such a small shift of just deciding I'm not going to put myself down, whether it's to myself or to my friends. I'm just not going to use that language. It's a small shift, and it's actually a lot, I think, harder to make than it might sound. But I think just by doing that, you'll start to kind of allow yourself to actually enjoy what you're doing more, and to chase that donut.
So well said. And I think this applies to a lot of people. Um, if these interviews have been any indication, I think a lot of people grapple with how they talk to themselves. So, for those of us who want to follow you on your journey, when we want to see when your debut album comes out, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I think my Instagram is one of the best places. Honestly, it's at Gabe, what is it? Underscore, no, at gabe.real_music, Gabe Real Music. And I've been something that I recently started doing the past few months is posting educational content. So if you're a pianist, I've been posting these little videos that um, has been really great for just creating community around what I do. That's another thing just about in terms of words of encouragement is like you're not doing this alone. So find the people who are like-minded, who are passionate, and kind of do it with them. But yeah, I have a website, Gabriel Schillinger-Hyman, and the Instagram is a great way to see where I'm performing in New York or abroad.
Perfect. I'll be sure to put links in the description for people to be able to find that easily. Everybody be sure to check those out. And if you like Gabriel's story that he shared here, be sure to like and subscribe on this video. There's so many inspirational interviews still to come, so make sure to stay tuned for those. But in the meantime, Gabriel, thank you. Thank you so much for talking to me, to all of us about going after what you want in life and what that looks like for you.
Thanks so much for having me. Hope this video helped someone.
I'm sure that it will. I have no doubt. It was surprisingly relatable, even though you're talking about such a specific thing. I think there's so much in there that people can apply to their own lives. And everybody, you know what to do. Go out there, get inspiration, and get donuts. Bye, everyone.